All right, so want to learn a new language.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to crack that motivation code, right?
Yeah.
We've got a ton of research here and some really cool insights from Zoltan Dornay, like a total expert in all this stuff.
And, motivation, it's like even more important when you're learning a language compared to other stuff.
It's true. It's different, right? You're not just memorizing, you're connecting with the whole culture, expressing yourself in new ways.
Absolutely.
I bet everyone listening has met someone who just picks up languages like it's nothing.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe they weren't even like a straight A student, but languages, no problem.
Right. That's probably all about motivation.
Yeah, yeah.
Dornier, he wrote this article back in '98. It was in language teaching.
Okay.
He basically says, forget raw talent. Motivation beats it every time.
Really?
He points out in places where you have to learn another language, tons of people do it, no matter how gifted they are.
So it's not just about being good at languages.
Nope, there's this whole other force going on.
So what is that motivation, though? Is it just, like, loving the culture?
Well, people used to think it was simple.
Okay.
Integrative, meaning you want to be part of the culture, versus instrumental, you need it for a job or something.
Right, right.
But Dornier is like, hold up, it's way more complicated.
Oh, I knew it.
He's got this whole extended framework. It includes stuff like, what's your language level right now? What kind of learner are you? Even the environment you're learning in.
So it's not one size fits all.
Not at all.
Tell me more about this framework. What else does it look at?
It breaks it down, right? So you've got those basic motives, integrative, instrumental.
Yeah.
But then, within each of those, there are subcomponents.
Uh-huh.
Like, are you someone who's driven by achievement? Or maybe connecting with people who speak that language?
Okay, getting more specific.
Exactly.
What about that learner level you mentioned?
Right. So it's things like, how confident are you? Do you get anxious easily? Even how you explain your successes and failures. It all matters.
Wow.
Think about when you've learned languages. Have you ever just hit a wall, started doubting yourself? Oh, totally.
Or like your anxiety goes through the roof.
Oh, yes. It's like I suddenly question everything.
Those internal struggles, that's part of this whole motivation thing too.
Wow.
And then there's the situation level, which is, the course itself, the teacher, even the other people in the class, how that dynamic works.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you ever have a teacher who just, I don't know, got you excited to learn? Someone inspiring?
Oh, absolutely. I had this amazing French teacher in high school. They just brought the language to life.
See, that right there, that's a powerful force for motivation, and Dornier's framework recognizes that alongside the more, traditional things like, what are your personal goals for learning?
So it's not just about me and what I want, it's the whole picture.
The whole environment, yeah.
This is getting complex.
It is complex, and remember, Dornier's framework is just one way of looking at it.
Oh, there are more.
Other researchers have different frameworks that emphasize different parts of the puzzle.
Okay, so multiple perspectives.
Exactly.
Like what? Well, for example, Williams and Burden, back in '97, they went deep on specific things that either help or hurt motivation.
Interesting.
They looked at stuff coming from inside the learner, like personality, versus stuff from outside, like, is your family supportive?
Oh, so internal and external.
Yep.
Any other frameworks that really stand out?
There's one by Tremblay Gardner from 1995. They focused on the process of motivation. Like, how do you go from your initial attitude to how you actually behave when you're learning?
Yeah.
What's cool is they included this thing called self-efficacy.
Self-efficacy, huh? What is that?
Basically, it means, do you believe in your ability to succeed? They found that's huge EE for keeping you motivated over time.
That makes sense. Like, if you think you can do it, it's easier to stick with it.
Right. When you think about times you've given up on learning something, it's probably because you lost that belief.
You're so right.
That's why understanding these different pieces and how they fit into your own immodulation is so crucial.
So we've got all these frameworks, Dornay's, Williams and Burden, Tremblay and Gardner. It's like they're all trying to figure out this complicated thing, what makes us tick as language learners.
Exactly. It's not about finding one answer that fits everybody.
Right, right.
It's about recognizing the many things that contribute to each person's journey.
No easy answers, got it.
But it's fascinating stuff.
It is. Now, I got to know, how does this all connect to what's happening in our brains? Is there like a neuroscience connection?
Oh, absolutely. And this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay, so we've got these motivational frameworks, Dornay's, Williams and Burden's, Tremblay and Gardner's.
Right.
But how does all this stuff actually work, like in our brains when we're learning a language?
The million-dollar question.
Right.
And the answer is neuroscience.
Neuroscience.
Yeah. We're starting to understand how our brains actually make and keep us motivated.
Wow.
It's not just, some fuzzy feeling. There's a real biology behind it.
So there's a physical reason why I get all excited about learning new languages?
You got it. Tell me more about this brain stuff.
Okay, so picture this. Deep inside your brain, there's this area called the nucleus accumbens.
Nucleus accumbens. Okay.
You could think of it like the brain's reward center.
Oh, interesting.
Anytime you experience something pleasurable or motivating, this little area, it just lights up.
So when I'm like geeking out over a new grammar rule or finally nail that pronunciation I've been working on,
Yeah,
that's my nucleus accumbens going wild.
exactly.
That's so...
And it gets even cooler. This nucleus accumbens, it gets flooded with this neurotransmitter called dopamine.
Dopamine.
The feel-good chemical.
Oh, yeah. Everyone talks about dopamine.
It's what gives us that rush of pleasure, makes us want more of whatever caused it.
So we're all just dopamine junkies.
Well, not quite that simple.
Right.
The brain is super complicated. Lots of different parts work together to create motivation.
Yeah, makes sense.
But dopamine, yeah, it plays a big part.
Okay, so dopamine's key. What else is going on up there?
Another crucial part is the prefrontal cortex. Prefrontal cortex. Okay.
This is the part of your brain that's responsible for planning, making decisions, basically being the ace in the room.
So the one that tells me I should be studying instead of like scrolling online.
Haha, that's the one.
I knew it.
It helps us take those dopamine impulses and turn them into actions that actually, get us closer to our goals.
So it's like the prefrontal cortex is the coach, taking that raw dopamine energy
Yeah,
and making a game plan.
love that analogy.
Thanks.
And this is where it becomes super relevant for language learners.
Okay, how so?
When we understand these brain mechanisms, we can start to, hack our own motivation system.
Now you're
How do
talking.
you need the hacks?
Right.
How do we actually use this neuroscience to get more motivated?
Well, one of the biggest takeaways is setting clear, specific, and challenging goals.
Goals. Okay.
When you have a real target in mind, your prefrontal cortex, it jumps into action, helps you figure out the steps to get there.
Like giving your brain a roadmap.
Exactly. Instead of letting it just wander around aimlessly. Right.
Another good strategy is to break down those big goals into smaller chunks.
Smaller chunks, okay?
This helps prevent that feeling of being overwhelmed.
Makes it less scary.
Exactly. The whole process seems less intimidating.
Oh, yeah. I'm way more likely to procrastinate if I'm just looking at this giant, vague goal.
I know, right?
But if I break it down into steps, it feels doable.
Exactly. And here's a cool trick. Try to shift your focus to the intrinsic rewards of language learning.
Intrinsic rewards, okay.
Think about the joy of actually communicating with people from different cultures,
Okay.
the satisfaction of understanding a new language,
Yeah.
the personal growth that comes with it.
I love all that.
Those are the things that really get you going.
It's true. But sometimes I get so caught up in the struggle of learning
Yeah.
that I forget why I started.
That's totally normal, but by reminding yourself of those deeper reasons, you're tapping into a more sustainable source of dopamine.
Sustainable dopamine. I like it.
Instead of eating sugary snacks,
Yeah.
you're having a nourishing meal.
Keeps you going longer.
Exactly.
So it's about enjoying the journey,
Yes,
not just fixating on the destination.
exactly.
Now, what about that stuff about novelty?
Oh, right.
You mentioned that our brains evaluate what's motivating based on things like if it's new and different.
Yeah, John Schumann's work.
Right, Schumann. How can we use that to our advantage?
That's a great point.
Mm.
Schumann says our brains love novelty.
Okay.
It's like a shot of motivation.
A shot.
So if you're feeling stuck, try shaking things up.
Okay.
Experiment with different learning methods, explore new resources, find creative ways to use the language.
That's so true. I remember when I was learning Italian, I hit this plateau. I felt totally unmotivated.
Yeah.
Then I started watching Italian movies with subtitles.
Nice.
And suddenly it was fun again.
Your brain was like, hey, this is new. Give me more dopamine.
Exactly. This whole neuroscience connection is blowing my mind.
I know, it's cool.
It's like we're finally seeing what's behind the curtain of motivation.
Exactly. And the best part is, by understanding how our brains work,
Yeah.
we can be smarter about how we learn.
We can take control.
Yes, instead of letting it control us.
So this is not just willpower, it's understanding our brains
And using that knowledge,
to make learning more effective and enjoyable.
you got it. And remember, motivation isn't just a one-time thing.
Right.
It's a continuous process.
It goes up and down.
There will be times when you feel more motivated than others.
Total.
It's like riding a wave.
Oh, I like that.
You just got to learn to write it out.
Speaking of riding waves,
Mm.
I feel like we've been riding a pretty big wave of information here.
Uh-huh.
We've covered so much: motivational frameworks, neuroscience.
It's been a deep dive.
It has. But before we wrap up,
Yeah.
I want to go back to those 10 commandments.
Oh, from Jornyai and Caesar?
Yes. We talked about them earlier, but I think they're worth revisiting.
Absolutely.
Now that we've talked about the motivational cycle and the neuroscience of it all,
Right. Well, some of those commandments, they're especially relevant to that initial spark.
that first burst of motivation,
Yeah, when you're first getting excited about learning a language.
like, I'm going to learn Swahili.
Exactly.
So exciting.
And things like setting a personal example with your own enthusiasm as a teacher,
Okay.
creating a pleasant learning environment, that can really get people going.
So it's about setting the stage for a positive experience.
Exactly. And then other commandments like promoting learner autonomy, personalizing the learning.
Giving people more control.
Right, that becomes super important during those plateau phases when motivation dips.
Yeah, because if you feel like you're in charge and it's tailored to you, you're more likely to stick with it.
Absolutely. And then there's some like setting goals, immersing yourself in the culture.
Right?
Those are helpful throughout the whole journey.
They keep you focused.
Give you a sense of purpose, direction, connection to the bigger picture.
So it's like we have this toolbox of strategies.
Yeah,
And we can use them at different points in our motivation journey.
it's a great way to put it.
And by understanding the neuroscience,
Uh-huh.
we can choose the right tools for the job.
Exactly. We're becoming more intentional learners.
This is so insightful, but I bet our listeners are like, give me more.
Uh-huh, I know.
More strategies for boosting motivation.
You read my mind.
Perfect. Because in our final segment, that's exactly what we're going to do.
Sounds good.
We'll explore specific techniques and tips you can use to keep that language learning fire burning bright. Okay, we've talked frameworks, we've gotten into brain science,
Yeah.
and now it's time for, like, the good stuff.
The practical strategies.
Yes, how do we boost that language learning motivation? Give us the goods.
All right, you got it. So remember how we were talking about novelty?
Our brains love it.
Right. One of the best ways to stay motivated is to keep things fresh, new stuff in your learning routine.
So not just the same old textbook and drills.
Exactly. Think outside the box. If you always study alone, try a language exchange or find someone to talk to.
A language partner.
Yep. Or watch movies, TV shows in the language you're learning.
Oh, fun.
The key is to keep your brain engaged.
Keep it challenged.
Right. I've noticed when I hit a plateau, it helps to switch things up.
Like, change what you're focusing on.
Yeah, if grammar's getting me down, I'll work on vocab for a bit.
Oh, that's smart. Gives your brain a break.
Prevents burnout. And another powerful thing is to leverage those intrinsic rewards we were talking about.
Okay, those deeper motivations.
Remind yourself, why did you start learning this language in the first place?
Right. Right.
Visualize yourself actually using the language. Imagine the conversations, the places you'll go, the people you'll connect with.
I love that.
And make sure what you're studying, the activities you're doing, they match your interests.
It has to be stuff you actually enjoy.
Absolutely. If you're a foodie, look up recipes in that language, read restaurant reviews.
Oh, that's a good idea.
If you love music, listen to songs, podcasts, whatever gets you going.
It's so important. Now, goal setting, we talked about that.
Yeah.
How important it is for our brains, but how do we set goals that actually work?
Make them smart,
Smart.
specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Oh, okay, Gus.
So instead of just, I want to be fluent in Spanish.
Yeah, that's vague.
Right, try something like, I want to be able to talk about my hobbies in Spanish for like 10 minutes straight within 3 months.
Okay, much more concrete.
It breaks it down into steps.
Makes it less scary.
Exactly. Well, any other tips for success?
Lay 'em on me,
Create a positive learning environment.
like around me.
Yeah, surround yourself with supportive people, find a study buddy, join a community online,
Okay?
celebrate your successes, even the little ones.
Because every step counts.
Totally, and don't be afraid to reward yourself.
Oh, I like rewards.
Doesn't have to be anything big, maybe watch an episode of your favorite show, but in the language you're learning.
Nice.
Or get takeout from a restaurant with that cuisine.
Ooh, I like that.
So, smart goals, good environment, reward yourself, but what about those days when you just, no motivation?
We all have them.
Right, you just don't feel like studying.
What do we do?
First, it's normal. Don't beat yourself up.
Okay.
Sometimes you just need a break, step away for a day or two, do something fun.
Okay.
But it's also important to remember why you started this whole thing.
Go back to the beginning.
Look at your goals again, reconnect with your reasons, remind yourself how far you've come.
Like hitting the reset button.
Exactly. We all need to recharge.
And refocus.
And here's another tip for tough days. Try micro-learning.
Micro-learning, huh?
Instead of forcing yourself to study for hours,
Yeah.
just do 5-10 minutes focused practice.
Little chunks.
You might be surprised what you get done.
That's way less intimidating.
Right. And sometimes those 5 minutes become 10, then 20, and you're back in the groove.
I love that. Just start small.
And remember, language learning, it's a journey, not a race.
I like that.
There will be ups and downs. The key is to be flexible. Change your approach when you need to. And don't lose sight of your goals.
This has been incredible. Such a deep dive.
We've covered a lot.
I feel like I understand motivation in a whole new way.
Good, I'm glad.
From the brain stuff to practical tips.
It's all connected.
Any final words of wisdom for our listeners? They're out there ready to learn.
Embrace the journey.
Ooh, I like that.
Be kind to yourself. Celebrate the wins. Don't be afraid to try new things. Find what works for you.
Yeah.
And most importantly, never give up on that dream of learning that language.
Beautifully said. So to all you language learners out there, remember, motivation is a skill. You can build it, make it stronger. You've got this. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive in happy language learning.